The sound came first metal on rock, that ugly clank and grind that doesn't belong on quiet mornings in the country. I thought maybe it was a neighbor's tractor, but when I stepped onto my porch with my coffee, the view hit me like a gut punch. On the far side of my property, right past the big oak I planted with my dad 30 years ago, there was a backhoe chewing into the earth. And next to it, HOA Karen herself, in a cream-colored blouse and oversized sunglasses, pointing at a set of rolled-up blueprints like she was directing a Hollywood set. Two hired men swung their shovels like they were racing a clock. The pit was already wide enough to swallow a pickup truck. I stormed across the yard, boots crunching the frost, my pulse hammering in my ears. "Get that machine off my land," I shouted. Karen turned slowly, plastering on that fake smile she uses when she knows she's cornered, but thinks she can talk her way out. "Oh, you must be mistaken," she said sweetly. "This section is being prepped for community drainage improvements. You'll thank us when the rainy season comes." Her hand waved in a little circle, as if the excavator rumbling behind her was nothing more than a neighbor kid's lemonade stand. I pointed at the barbed wire fence line, still intact but now shadowed by the massive gash they dug. "That's my property. My name's on the deed, and you didn't ask. This is trespassing, Karen. Not his is destruction." She pursed her lips. "The HOA voted on this. It's for the good of the neighborhood. And frankly, you've refused to join for too long. We've decided to proceed without your consent." My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "You can't decide for me." She laughed a short, sharp sound that made the hairs on my arms rise. "We can if you make yourself a problem." That was the moment I realized this wasn't a mistake. It was a play, pressure tactic. She wanted to ruin part of my land, then offer to fix it in exchange for me signing HOA membership papers. I'd heard rumors of them pulling stunts on new residents, but never thought they'd try it with me. And yet here she was, tearing into soil my grandfather had worked, the same patch that held our family's well system underground. I took a step closer, the backhoe's engine roaring like a dare. "Turn it off. Now." The driver glanced at Karen, uncertain. She snapped her fingers and gestured for him to keep going. That's when I pulled out my phone not to call the cops. Not yet. First, I hit record. "Go ahead," I told her. "Explain on camera why you're digging up land you don't own." She straightened her shoulders. "For public benefit." But what she didn't know was that the well system under that soil was registered with the County Water Authority as protected infrastructure. Touching it without authorization wasn't just trespassing, it was a felony. I called the sheriff, my voice steady, giving them my coordinates and telling them there was active tampering with protected property. Karen smirked the whole time, mouthing "waste of time" to one of her laborers. 15 minutes later, the first cruiser rolled up, lights cutting through the late morning haze. Deputy Alvarez stepped out, taking in the scene: the pit, the machinery, Karen's smug posture. "Whose property is this?" he asked. "Mine," I answered, holding out my deed. "And they're not supposed to be here." Alvarez asked for permits. Karen produced nothing but the HOA meeting minutes, which weren't worth the paper they were scribbled on. Alvarez's radio crackled. Dispatch confirmed the county records. Active private well, registered and protected. His eyes hardened. "Ma'am, you're interfering with county-regulated infrastructure." She scoffed. "It's just dirt." But then, as if fate wanted to drive the point home, one of the workers' shovels hit something metallic. The sound rang out sharp, and a thin spray of water hissed from the breach. "The well line." Alvarez stepped forward. "Shut it down." The backhoe went quiet. He turned to Karen. "You just damaged protected utilities. That's criminal mischief and a state-level offense." Her face went pale, but she still tried to talk over him. "We were improving the neighborhood." Alvarez didn't blink. "You're under arrest." The twist came as the cuffs clicked around her wrists. A black SUV pulled up behind the cruiser. Out stepped a man in a county inspector's jacket, me cousin David, who I hadn't seen in months. "Heard the call on the radio," he said to me quietly. "I've been trying to catch this HOA in the act. You just handed us the smoking gun." He crouched at the pit's edge, snapping photos of the damaged pipe and the blueprints Karen had been waving. "This isn't a drainage plan," he murmured. "It's a lot expansion map for one of their developers." Karen's eyes darted between us, realizing too late she'd been caught not just in vandalism but in a land fraud scheme. Alvarez read her rights over the sound of my dogs barking in the distance, as if they too knew justice had just arrived. And that's where the real fight began, one I intended to win with the same precision my family had used to defend this land for generations. By the time the case hit the courthouse, the evidence against Karen and her cronies was stacked like bricks in a wall they couldn't climb. My footage showed her directing the excavation, Alvarez's body cam had her admitting she had no permits, and David's photos tied the whole thing to an illegal development expansion. The DA added charges of conspiracy to commit fraud, destruction of protected infrastructure, and attempted coercion of a property owner. The HOA tried to circle the wagons at first, holding their own special meeting to paint Karen as a victim of misunderstanding. But the other board members didn't realize that the sheriff's office had already subpoenaed their emails. When the contents leaked, it was like a bomb went off. Plans to force holdout owners like me into the HOA through staged improvements. Lists of properties targeted for sabotage and correspondence with a developer promising kickbacks for every new parcel they acquired. The trial became a public spectacle. Neighbors packed the gallery, the local news ran nightly segments, and even people from outside the county came to watch. On the stand, Karen tried to spin her actions as acting in the best interest of the community. But the prosecutor dismantled that in minutes. He played the clip of her smirking at my camera, declaring the land was hers to use. Then he followed with the body cam footage of her standing over the broken well line, looking like a kid caught with her hand in the cookie jar. The twist that sealed it came from someone I hadn't expected, one of the very workers she'd hired to dig the pit. He testified under oath that she told them, "Make it big enough to scare him into signing," and that she promised cash bonuses if they ignored me. The jury didn't even look at her after that. Verdict: guilty on all counts. Sentence: 5 years in state prison, restitution to me for repairs, fines to the county, and a permanent ban from any HOA leadership in the state. But it didn't stop with her. The developer she'd been working with faced his own charges, and 3 other board members were indicted for their role in the scheme. When the gates closed behind the last of them, the neighborhood held a meeting without a single HOA official present. For the first time in years, it felt like a gathering instead of a tribunal. People talked about planting community gardens, fixing fences together, and minding their own business. I stood at the edge of the crowd, watching kids play near the oak tree again, the scar in the earth where the pit had been now filled and seeded over. David clapped a hand on my shoulder. "You didn't just protect your land," he said. "You broke the back of the whole rotten system they were building." I looked out over my property, the winter sun catching on the well cap they tried to destroy, and felt the weight lift. Justice wasn't just done, it was seen, heard, and remembered. And maybe now, people around here would think twice before letting power go unchecked. What about you? If someone dug into your land to force you into their control, would you stand your ground like I did, or try a different path?